Welcome everyone to the Region of Solutions podcast, where we give you the insider's take on the impactful work and initiatives being undertaken at ESCAP. I'm Kavita Sukanandan.
And I'm Mitch. Today, reveal what happens behind the scenes and dive into the inner workings of ESCAP. There couldn't have been a better set of guests than our friends from the Division of Administration to share a bit of an insider view on how we are walking the talk and incorporating sustainability into our business operations.
Today we have with us Soomi, ESCAP's Director of Administration, Rieger, Chief of the Facilities and Property Management Unit, and Flavia, Reale, Environmental Management Officer. So all three of them are based here at ESCAP's headquarters in Bangkok. Welcome, guys. To start off, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey to ESCAP? Where did the passion for sustainability come from? Soomi, how about we start with you first?
Just a very brief introduction in my current role in ESCAP. Apart from being the head of administration, I'm also the regional operational management team in the UN system-wide collaboration group in the region of Asia Pacific. My interest on the EMS, journey in the UN as a whole started from the UN headquarters in my previous function in New York, where we had a lot of discussions and some of the tangible efforts that we were trying to deliver, not only as a UN headquarters, but with the UN system-wide collaboration into this very difficult but very important topic.
And Flavia, whenever we say greening the UN or greening ESCAP, your name pops up. Everyone talks about you and all the amazing work that you do. Could you tell us a little bit about how you got here?
I've been working in the environmental field also before with UNEP, the United Nations Environment Program. And for me, what I find extremely interesting is the practical side of it. Climate action, it's broad, it's overwhelming. How can we make it tangible, practical? And how can we be creative about it? So for me, these two elements of making it practical and creative are really the drivers. So that's why I've been with ESCAP since 2017, trying to tackle one challenge at a time to make our operations greener.
Stephen, how about you?
The long journey, and it wasn't always about the environment because I've been doing energy savings since the early 90s. I started doing mechanical electrical engineering work for construction companies. I then moved to a building automation company to improve energy efficiency of buildings. And it was originally more focused on reducing dollars of the expenditure, but now it's moved on to really going into the finer details of sorting through and reducing all sorts of consumption rather than just electricity. Here at ESCAP, one of our biggest expenses is annually electricity. We've taken our electricity consumption a long way down from 13 gigawatt hours a year in 2003 to something around 7 gigawatt hours a year now. So we've done a lot. Not just me, it's the whole team. Everybody's involved.
Such a diverse from pathways you've all come together here in Bangkok. So it's great to hear. One of the things we do want to ask everybody, one of the common questions is what kind of solutions are you really working on for the region?
The major and main solution that we are driving these days is how do we actually mainstream these big topic items of the UN SDG goals, whether it's greening the blue, whether it's energy efficiency, and all of that, how do we actually make those big aspirational goals into the tangible and practical solutions into our business operations? We, as in the governments, member states, UN community, public, private sector, we were all collectively talking about the climate action, risks, and what are the sustainable goals. But when it comes to focusing on the policy level and we're not really delivering into our regular day-to-day operations, then we are just not walking our talk and we are just telling the story. So we are really focusing on showing solutions, whether it's a travel, whether it's the way we organize meetings, the way that our participants and the delegates or the UN community is doing the behavioral pattern, whether it's a waste management, coffee mugs choice, whether it's the waste segregation, whether we are actually giving the right communication, the impact that we are living. We are all focusing on really narrowing down to the practical, tactical, tangible daily solution.
Greening the UN means also giving a message to the region. We have this large UN conference center where 80,000 people a year come for meetings. So of course, when we implement some green features, we are sharing them with those 80,000 that come to our facilities. And we look at waste, we look at energy, as Stephen was saying, meetings, as Soomi mentioned, and of course, much more. We look at our travel, charging stations for electric vehicles. We continue on different areas because they all matter to reduce our environmental footprint.
Energy is really important to us. It's all about the dollars, because if we don't spend the dollars on electricity, we can improve our facilities, make the air conditioning system better, just keep the premises in a very nice operational condition so that it's welcoming to people to come, and people like to come and visit us. So that's my simple stance on this.
Simple but crucial. So business operations within a large organization like ESCAP can be a really daunting job and responsibility. So as the people who actually live it, do you think you have any interesting or inspiring projects that you'd like to share with us?
We started some simple things in the background when I first started in the early 2000s, and that's progressively rolled into some bigger and larger projects. And ultimately, the biggest project we have on at the moment is the seismic mitigation project that has huge energy ramifications with the changes to the building. So we're improving the insulation, improving the facade so that we have less heat coming in, and that then helps present a lower energy consumption footprint and produces therefore less CO2, gives me less to deal with. We've put so many solar panels on the roof, and we're waiting for the SMP project to finish before we put another 1,100 square meters on the roof of the Secretariat. And that's all just ongoing step-by-step stage work.
I think what is a game changer in general is the systematic approach. The fact that we look at complex issues globally, like how can we tackle environmental sustainability at all levels in our organization? And then this systematic approach, in our case, is called environmental management system, where you just don't do things. You stop a second, you analyze, and you look at data. In which areas are we polluting the most? So this approach, I think, has been really the game changer. The fact that you're data driven, and then you can have real impact. So if today we can say we cut down on our emissions by 60%, it's because we made strategic choices based on data.
No EMS action, no matter how big or small it is, it requires collective efforts. Sometimes every individual, without even knowing, they are either contributing positively or negatively. Case of example of the catering operations in ESCAP. So when we organize a major international or ministerial conferences, obviously that entails meeting organization, that entails facilities, infrastructure support, that entails catering operations for the banqueting and all those event support mechanism. Are we asking for the environmentally low impact catering requirements? Are we actually choosing the catering partners that actually have the sustainability practices in their CSR operations? Are we actually making the sustainable food consumption choices? And they also sometimes generate the demand in a positive or a negative way. Then comes obviously the colleagues who are working on the procurement action. Are they aware of this environmentally conscious procurement action that comes with it and that's in line with the UN policy? If our UN policy doesn't support that, we should then be questioning our in-house UN requirements to change the policy that makes the right deal. Then obviously that doesn't stop short at how do we deal with the food waste after the catering operations is over. So it's a whole loop in totality, and that is the reason why sometimes even the constructive critical feedback or the less supporters, we take in their feedback as to why it drives the human behavior or the user's behavior that we may not be fully supporting the EMS action. Then we need to recalibrate and readjust and change either our business operation modality or our communication modality.
I would imagine that behavior change has got to be one of the biggest challenges, right? To get people to get used to bringing in their own cups and things, or if not, leaving a deposit to borrow a mug and things like that. Maybe you want to elaborate on some of the other challenges as well.
I think the systematic action really is a combination of, do we actually have the right policy, and do we actually have the right infrastructure that supports it? And then obviously the people factor. So from the systematic challenge, I think as an organization, I will just mention firstly on the UN internal measures. The talking of the greening the blue was a taboo topic about a decade ago. It even challenged whether as a UN community as a whole, whether the UN internal policy is actually supportive of the sustainability in terms of the business operation.
That's surprising to hear. Why was that?
It's a very important topic of the discussion because from the pragmatic portion, EMS or the climate action is a topic that everybody can embrace. But when you need to actually deliver it, mainstream it into the business operation, it actually has to support the UN internal management policy and the processes and procedures that support the delivery of such. About a decade ago, for us to have a sustainable procurement action, or sustainable climate generation invited a lot of topics of the debates that our member states or the shareholders were opposing the resolution to be passed on the sustainable procurement, which we are still grappling with. However, there are two choices that we can remain, whether we stop and do nothing, or that we find a caveat of what we can do to deliver that closer to the work stream. The reason I mentioned about a decade ago was because a decade ago, I was working in the peacekeeping sector. We actually had a blockage of the sustainable procurement or the sustainable requirements in the business operation. We didn't stop short at that. We actually looked for where is the area that we can actually do the energy efficient products of the choices to design and to deliver the UN peacekeeping camps or whether the UN construction projects, and where can we actually reduce the electricity. We actually found a lot of different like LED products, solar panels, which was a taboo topic about a decade or more ago, but it is today embraced. And member states are asking, where can we do more in terms of the solar panels to be installed in the UN operation and UN premises? So I think this is a kind of the journey that when we face some policy bottleneck, then we find the different caveats of how to deliver the same goal, but in a different solution-driven approach.
Whilst the organization was busy chasing policy, I know in the facilities management team, we were writing our specifications with technical requirements, efficient motors, efficient fans, and just slowly over the couple of years, we changed all the lighting within the premises to save lots of money. Did we do officially green procurement? No. But did we do good, logical, technical solutions to save energy? Yes, we did. And that's now pretty much ingrained in everything we ever go out to purchase. We always look at the most efficient method, but we still keep an eye on our cost effectiveness for that solution. And then Flavia said earlier, it's all about having the data. So with the building automation system and utility monitoring, we know where we're spending our money. We know where we're losing efficiency. We know which room's hot or cold, and we then go and look at resolving those. So with data, we can do a lot of things. The building automation system that we put in about 2005 around the whole premises has been very worthwhile in helping us cut our consumptions, save energy, and effectively save the environment.
A lot of this stuff is, of course, invisible to the rest of us here in the buildings. Thank you for sharing all that.
There's so much more that the people that come in and use the premises don't see that we do in the background and have progressively changed over the years. You wouldn't even notice that the air quality in the conference center is improved drastically from early 2000s when we changed all the air handling units and all the filters. And luckily we had the new high quality filters all fully completed and installed in 2018 before we had the COVID incidents.
Going beyond Bangkok a little bit, have there been any efforts to incorporate this into ESCAP offices across the region?
Indeed, yes. We started in 2022, 2023. We expanded our environmental management system to include also our regional offices that, despite being sometimes smaller compared to the headquarters, of course, they are part of ESCAP and they are playing a role because, again, we really see this model of the UN piloting climate action everywhere in the region. We go practical. We replace AC unit, we replace LED lighting, efficient water fixtures in toilets. We really look at their business operation. What is it that they control and they can change? So sometimes it's the organization of a meeting. How can they organize their flagship meeting in a way that is more sustainable, having more vegetarian options in their menus, having less participants flying in? And so we really look together at solutions. And every single ESCAP regional office has an action plan for environmental sustainability. What we do is basically we try to build this lab of climate action, but it needs to be communicated. So we had meeting with the Bangkok governor, for example, showing our approach, our facilities, our improvements, and our results, because nothing speaks more than practical results and actions for people to be inspired. So based on that, leaving the jargon that we all mentioned before and going to practical actions makes it tangible for everyone. What we are trying to do, for example, we also help colleagues when they are doing procurement exercises for hotels, for some events, to put the right specifications in that. And this is a way to communicate also to business partners, to the private sector, that the UN is asking for some type of services. So we try to communicate at all levels, from our procurement to our communication campaigns and our sustainability and innovation center.
Just to pick it up from Flavia, and in terms of the importance of communication, and I think that sometimes we assume that all we do in the UN is well known within the UN community and sometimes even the public. But one of the communication strategy and the importance of it is a repeated messaging and sometimes different avenues and the channels of how you actually communicate. And so when the recent visits from the Queen of Thailand and Queen of Sweden, they stopped by the Sustainability Innovation Corner, they shared with me that they were very happy to see that it's a very easy showing communication message that whoever comes for a meeting or the visits the UN ESCAP or the UN Conference Center, that the UN actually puts an emphasis on the climate action and the sustainability.
Flavia, Stephen, Soomi, the three of you have shared so many activities that perhaps a lot of our colleagues are not even aware of. Is there anything left on your wish list to tackle under this area?
Well, on my front, certainly, perhaps we did not share much on one activity that has been the key one, waste management. And so perhaps I think it's important to share that journey that has been really a collective journey, because we looked at everything. Of course, as I said, we started with data, but then we had to deal really with awareness of colleagues, of users, but also of our business partners that were operating the waste facilities on site. So again, the communication component comes back. So what did we do in a nutshell? We did not put recycling bins. We developed a new waste management strategy. We looked at data. We understood what we could prevent. We banned all single-use plastics catering items back then in 2018, where we were among the front runners on that and saved 9 tons of waste every year. But then we also looked at how can we manage better our waste? How can we recycle more? So we did market research. We improved the way we manage waste on site, put recycling bins. And all this also led to big recycling improvement from 24% in 2016 to almost 70%. As a last point, we have renovation works happening. And we said, how can we control also that waste? We put in clauses into our procurement that ask our contractor to recycle at least 75% of the construction waste. Before, that was a transparent waste. We would not account for it. It would enter and leave our facilities. And now, last year, 79% of the construction waste was recycled in our major renovation work. So this is an example of how you have to communicate well. You have to train personnel. But if you monitor all that, you can really achieve results.
I want to thank all three of you for joining us and sharing with us the insights into all of this work. What do you want our listeners to take away from our conversation today?
I want to share with the colleagues and the listeners that no small activity or action goes to a waste.
No pun intended.
I would just say, like I did earlier, pick somewhere to start and just do something. Doing nothing is worse than doing something.
Along the same lines, climate action is not abstract. It's very practical. Look at what you control and start doing something, because we need to act collectively.
Wise words from everybody, and I think strong encouragement for all of us.
And hopefully through this episode, we'll also put the spotlight a little bit more on the unsung heroes who are helping our journey to sustainability. So that's all for today's episode of A Region of Solutions. A big thank you to our guests for sharing their expertise with us.
Don't forget to follow us on social media and to subscribe to our podcast for more inspiring stories from ESCAP.
Until next time, stay curious, stay engaged, and be part of the solution for our region. Goodbye.